I'm back. Conclusion. I awoke 2 days later in bed from Ingolstadt, whither I had been seriously conveyed by a party from Merrigan. My unconscious body had been discovered, lying at the very edge of the path by the fall, so that the slightest movement must have instantly been precipitated me into the yawning depths. On the Thursday morning I was interviewed by the Swiss police. They accepted readily enough that my prostration had been caused by the shock of my companion's death, but proved considerably more sceptical when it came to swallowing my story of vanishing youths and criminal masterminds. At length I hit upon the idea of asking Lestrade to confirm my bona fides, and following the receipt of a telegram from Scotland Yard, the attitude of the local authorities changed from guarded suspicion to respectful condolences. On my return to London a week later, I removed the papers and the jars from the empty house in Baker Street, and the jars I took to Bart, and there disposed of the hideous contents. The papers I burnt. On these measures I had been taken, felt reasonable, but no one would have ever cause to suspect the truth about Sherlock Holmes' last years. But I wanted to do more than that for my old friend. I wanted to perpetuate the good that was in him before the darkness overshadowed it. Above all, I wanted to press upon the public mind in an image of Holmes' honourable life, a noble death, so attractive, so indelible, that if any later searcher should stumble on the truth, for I could not be sure that other damning evidence did not exist elsewhere, his accusations would be received, and frowns and frigid silence, as being as tasteless and absurd. As luck would have it, the perfect sculptor of my monument was at hand. In order to avert interrupting the course of my narrative, I omitted to mention that Arthur Conan Doyle had approached me earlier in 1891 to view obtaining further material from my records for Holmes's cases. It seemed that his second foray into this genre had proved sufficiently successful to introduce him to the continued experiment, but with a difference. What he proposed was to write a series of short tales, each devoted to one of Holmes' successes. As I have said, I was out of touch with Holmes at this time, but in view of his ready agreement of the previous occasion, I had no hesitation in selecting 12 cases which I felt illustrated the various aspects of my friend's genius, and passing these on to Arthur Conan Doyle. In the fury of all these adventures followed closely thereafter, I forgot about all the literary venture. Arthur Conan Doyle's stories started to appear in the standard July issue. They were immediately successful, and every month that passed with the demand for the magazine increased. Arthur Conan Doyle's response to this triumph was typically ambivalent. On the one hand, he could not help being pleased that his work was so popular. On the other hand, he feared that the very success of the stories was keeping him from more serious, worthy endeavours. The news of Sherlock Holmes' death showed me a way out of this dilemma. Early in 1892, he came to see me and proposed that I furnish him with the material for a further 12 tales, the last of which was to recount of the events leading up to Holmes' death at Reichenberg Falls. This would eventually terminate the series and free Arthur Conan Doyle from the temptation of indulging further in the work he had come to regard as menial if lucrative drudgery. The suggestion would not have fitted in any better with my own desires. I set to work with a will. 11 of the dozen cases was no trouble to prepare, since I had only to collate the copy out of fair hand my way, already existing notes. But when it came to dealing with Holmes's death, I was faced with the singular problem of inventing a plausible series of events which would satisfy the known facts, yet reveal nothing of the terrible truth behind them. I fear I did not manage to concoct a very convincing smokescreen. Indeed, a close reading of the finished story, which Arthur Conan Doyle entitled more aptly than he knew the final problem, will reveal that it is riddled with inconsistencies. But it's part of the business of a good writer to prevent his audience from reading closely if this does not suit his purpose. And when the tale finally appeared, in any question of its weaknesses went unheard in the general howl of dismay that Holmes was dead and the series was at an end. Neither had Never had there been such an outcry. Arthur Conan Doyle's readers had come to think of Holmes as a valued and trusted friend. My wishes could not have been more fully realised. Later, of course, Arthur Conan Doyle saw fit to start writing detective stories again. And since the public had no use for dead heroes, he was obliged to bring Holmes back to life in another autographical adventure, which I must say, I think the distinction of being even less plausible than one I devised. But by then Holmes had ceased to be remembered as a real figure. Except by a small circle of acquaintances, he had become a fictional character. I had no complaint to make at that turn of events. It was all, after all, Holmes himself who is by infamies effectively removed himself from the ranks of mankind. Thereafter, he was doomed to become another myth or a monster. Fortunately, I was able to ensure that it was the former. Perhaps indeed the myth I had helped to create has taken such a powerful hold on the public image that the facts, once they had carefully been safely revealed, will not be credited, so be it. I had rather been taken for a fraud, having seen the many for whom Sherlock Holmes said was an ideal, an example, shattered and embittered on learning the horrible truth about their paragon. For myself, the cost was light. I returned to Switzerland in broken health and was craving for further injections of cocaine, which took more than 2 years to mend. By then my practice was once more in ruins, and although I benefited substantially by Holmes's will, my wife and I were in financial straits for some time. But others had more recently made far greater sacrifices for our country. Many would ill become me to complain my lot, and so my narrative is finally at an end. Sherlock Holmes' death, my existence had a quiet and commonplace one, but sometimes I sit by the fire on nights, with the wind walls of the chimney. My thoughts travel back to the great falls of Rackenberg, and I hear again the exquisite consolation of Holmes' final words, and see once more the light of understanding in his eyes. During those last moments, when he seemed once again the best and wisest man I had ever known. An attempt at recovering the bodies was absolutely hopeless, and there deep down in the dreadful colludium of swirling water and seething foam will lie for all time the most dangerous criminal and foremost companion of law of their generation. So Arthur Conan Doyle, the final problem. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the last Sherlock Holmes story. I hope you've enjoyed this over the year. I'm sorry I've taken so long to get through this book. I've enjoyed reading it. It's the first time I've actually read this. And as for my other video, throwing me TV Times or whatever it was over the month, I have no disrespect for anyone who has different tastes or anything like that. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. And hopefully I will be doing another story next year if I get the chance to do any more videos. Until then, don't forget to check out 77, 78 and 79. Until then, until next time, goodbye for now.